Microsoft E3 plans have been revealed. There's going to be an Xbox Game Studios showcase on the same date as the Starfield one, June 11th. It's a Sunday. It's classic E3. Now, I want both of you, starting with Chris, to give me a conservative prediction and a wild card prediction.
When you say conservative, you don't mean like anything about people on boats or anything. You mean like just in terms of...
Phil Spencer's going to stand behind a lectern that says we have to stop the boats. He's going to take food out of the mouths of impoverished people, and then he's going to announce a new Banjo-Kazooie.
Oh, well, that's what I had written down. the boat's not Banjo-Kazooie. My conservative prediction is a quite boring one, I'm afraid, but I think Ubisoft Plus will finally be added to Game Pass Ultimate, because it's been more than a year now since Ubisoft said that Ubisoft Plus was coming to Xbox in general, and to the best of my knowledge it hasn't yet.
The logo is in the back end. It has been for months and months and months.
It's been there for ages, and I don't know if Sony's done an exclusivity deal, because obviously there's Ubisoft stuff on PlayStation Plus Premium now, and I don't know if there's been some kind of deal done where they say don't bring it to Xbox for X amount of time. So my guess is that Ubisoft Plus will be added to Game Pass Ultimate, and that Game Pass Friends and Family will be spread out to the larger regions, because it's doing the rounds now in like Ireland and Colombia, and they added it to a few kind of other kind of smaller regions recently. I think they'll roll that out properly, and that'll be the next big push for Xbox Game Pass.
And your wild
That's
card?
my conservative one. My wild card is 1 versus 100.
Finally,
the return. Because Phil Spencer's been hinting at it and teasing at it for a while, and late last year they did an Xbox FanFest trivia event where people subscribed to FanFest could log on and take part in an Xbox quiz, which I took part in as well, because I was like, fine, let's try it. And it was really well put together, and I felt like this has been a hell of a lot of work just for a kind of a limited availability thing, just for a bunch of Xbox fans. This feels like a test run for something, for like a quiz engine, because it worked really well. It worked quite seamlessly. So I get the feeling that 1 versus 100 might be coming back.
Yeah, and Jeff Grubb has said as much. Like last year, he said that as far as he was aware, that was happening, and like the Metroid Prime remaster, eventually the Grub Man cometh, and it does happen. So I would exactly. I would expect that'd be great. 1 versus 100. It's crazy they never did it in the era of HQ trivia or in the pandemic. Like, surely when everyone's like locked in their house, wouldn't that be the perfect place to do it?
That would have been the perfect time to do it. But I'll any time's the perfect time for 1 versus 100. Cannot wait for
those
it.
guys.
I'll be glued to my telly. Exactly.
Stacey, your conservative prediction and your wild card for the Microsoft show.
I mean, conservative prediction was going to be talking more about Hellblade, but I feel like I already have. So what I think we are really due information on is Perfect Dark. That was revealed a long time ago. We just kind of saw a CGI trailer of a corridor and haven't really heard anything of it since. I don't expect a Hi-Fi Rush style shadow drop, but more gameplay. Maybe it's a release window for 2024, or even 2025, early 2025. I don't know how big it is, really what their ambition for the game is. It feels like we know nothing about it, and it doesn't feel as important a franchise to a lot of people as it does to me. I played as a kid, and I think you have that connection that you play to games as a kid, but I'm going to say this and get lots of angry emails, but I thought it was better than GoldenEye. I thought it did the GoldenEye thing better than GoldenEye, and I'm surprised that GoldenEye has remained this beloved game. It's just been brought back out. People still talk about it as an all-time great, and yet Perfect Dark never even gets a mention. And I know GoldenEye has the James Bond link, but the fact that they're making a new one and they're saying so little about it, I would like to see it then. I just feel it's due.
Chris, as the resident old man, what do you think of that Perfect Dark versus GoldenEye? Where do you come down?
I agree with Stacey. I think fundamentally Perfect Dark's a better game. I don't know if it's just... I don't know if the reason GoldenEye is the one people think fondly of is because Perfect Dark needed the expansion pack to properly unlock everything on the N64, and not a lot of people had that. So I think just more people had GoldenEye, and that's probably why everyone talks about it more. But Perfect Dark definitely was, in my eyes at least, the better game. So yeah, I agreed. I'm curious to see if we're going to get another if it's going to lean more towards rare quality or more towards Perfect Dark Zero quality. So
a classic.
That'll be interesting.
An early 360 banger.
Vintage launch game.
And your wildcard prediction, Stacey?
Obviously, the Activision whole thing isn't through yet, so that probably puts a dampener on this. But since it's a wild card, I would love to see them push. So much of the Activision talk has been Call of Duty getting across the line, and I would love to see them push one of the smaller things. Like, it's been hinted at for a long time. There's going to be a new Spyro. There was hints in the Crash game. There was hints in the Crash art book. There was been like weird tweets before the Game Awards, and then no announcement. And I've always kind of wondered, why are they kind of building up to nothing? So I would love to see them do a new Spyro, really in the way they obviously brought back the Crash trilogy, then they rebooted the whole thing with Crash 4. I would like to see them do something similar and essentially make a Spyro 4 that starts after Reignited.
With that one, you do assume that they probably are going to do that like the second they legally can. Like, whatever the big show is following that, they're like, okay, we're doing Spyro. Please fucking God, they're going to come out and say, we're going to get the team to do Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, which would get VGC's first ever 6-star. Which clears the way for them to eventually do the Thug remakes, get Bam Margera back. It would be perfect. But yeah, I could see them. You've got to double down on that stuff, mainly to make people feel better about this very weird deal. Like to a big section of the game playing audience, at least the hardcores, Call of Duty is like, oh, it's fucking Call of Duty. But if you can be like, we're doing more Spyro, that Crash 4 was. I'm famously an anti-Crash person, but was that Crash 4 received well? Were people into it? Did people think it was what they were wanting?
The big problem with that was it was so tailored to the hardcore. Like, I 100% of the 3 of the main trilogy, or like 107% or whatever the daft number was. But they made Crash 4 kind of for that kind of player. The levels were so much longer. You had to beat them on the hardest difficulty, which Crash did usually have difficulty levels, but had to beat it on like a harder difficulty and without dying. And to get one of the color gems, you have to go through an entire level, which takes about 8 minutes without breaking a single box. And just like lots of things like that, where that would be a fun challenge in a small dose, but every level was designed as the hardest challenge possible. So I think people generally liked the game, not as much the other characters. The playing as Dingodile wasn't as good as that probably people would have imagined in their own heads, getting to play as Dingodile. But I think in general it was well received. I don't think it sold anywhere near as well as the trilogy. And then we all know what happened. They folded into Call of Duty. There was the what's it called now, Team Rumble. Originally Wumpa League. So it kind of disintegrated after that, and it seemed like the chances of Spyro died with that. But hopefully, as you say, bringing instead of just focusing on Call of Duty, which makes the most money, this deal might be the silver lining of they're going to be focusing on the smaller games.
Did we bring back Guitar Hero?
Oh my God! See, right, here's the thing. Bring back Guitar Hero is the one that people have like the hearts and minds. Rock Band was always better. Rock Band was always better. It had better instruments, better fucking songs. It had a better progression. But Guitar Hero is the one that you say to people. Mind when you had Guitar Hero on the Wii. Guitar Hero 3 on the Wii was like a ridiculous phenomenon. I would love the fucking DJ Hero.
That is exactly what I was just about to say. I've got my DJ Hero decks behind me still to this day, and like, what a game!
Well. We are sad bastards. Why do we hold on to this stuff that will outlive us?
I've got my bootleg DJ Hero soundtrack on my iPad.
Do you have the Black and Gold, the Eminem and Jay-Z one?
Do you know what I did? And I played it too much and it got broke, so I had to go to CX and buy like a standard one to replace it when I was gutted. So yeah, I played it that much. I went through 2 sets of cheap plastic decks.
Weirdly, the last time they brought Guitar Hero back for Guitar Hero Live, it was weirdly ahead of its time with the whole you played it like there was like streaming channels you subscribe to and things like that.
Yeah.
But as someone who still has Rock Band 4 instruments and protects them with my life because they are so expensive to get replacement ones now, I have like 2,000 songs of DLC on Rock Band 4. I would love music games to come back. My conservative prediction is that we get a lot of Avowed gameplay and we get a general 2024 release date for it, because I just think that's going to be their next thing.
Yeah.
Here's my wild card one. I think that they make the play to be the home of EAFC for the next few years, in the same way that PlayStation has been for the last, say, since it's like FIFA 15 or 16 it transitioned over, and now the key thing is it's where EA chooses to hold their esports on what platform, because PlayStation is their like esports platform for FIFA at the moment, but in the Xbox 360 era, FIFA was aligned with Xbox. You could only get Legends on Xbox, things like that. This is the best opportunity they've had to maybe swing that, but I don't know. My other one was going to be we won't see Fable, but I don't want to wind people up, so
are we going to get Scalebound?
No.
Yeah, I think so.
If we get Scalebound, it will be a logo, and the game will never come out again.
No, yeah, I don't mean like Scalebound, and it's out today, Hi-Fi Rush. But I mean, it's like because 2020, Phil Spencer, I've got it written down. I said Phil Spencer said, and I quote: "This is journalism, folks.
Michael Cole.
This is how journalism works." It says, and I quote: "For the people out there thinking that maybe there's still something in the works, there's not." And then last year he just said, "There's currently nothing to say about Scalebound." That to me is an upgrade over hell no to nothing to say.
Phil Spencer must hate us for just ripping apart these tiny wee words and being like, no, that
busted wide open. We're on to you, Phil.
Confirms
we know he listens.
Took 2 quotes that say no and said this means it.
This game that originally already looked absolute dog shit, like is coming back, but we actually have some listener mail from Nathan Zur, who writes in just like you can to podcast@videogameschronicle.com and asks, loving the show so far and keen for Chris to make his debut this episode. This is clearly let's face it, he's already stopped off
listening.
to a bad start. My question is, what do you think the public's perspective of Xbox will be at the end of the year with games like Starfield, Redfall, Forza releasing? I assume it'll be positive, but it probably hinges on whether Starfield is good or not. I will answer this diplomatically as Xbox's number one defender. I think if Redfall is like, firstly, I don't think many people will actually care about Redfall outside of our bubble, because it's an Arcane game, and Arcane games are doomed to sell 10 copies to games journalists. Forza, I bet that's brilliant. I bet that ends up being one of the highest rated games of the year Metacritic wise, because it's just like, look at these fucking cars, they drive so well. Starfield,
no coffee shops in it at all.
No coffee shops, no fucking 40 minutes about the history of the combustion engine. Starfield's the one, because the meme readout on Starfield is going to determine whether or not Xbox has a good year. If it comes out, it's brilliant, wee bit buggy, but you know, it's buggy in the way that every massive open world game is buggy, but it's also fucking brilliant. It's getting these amazing scores, all the press are really loving it. Then I think that gives Xbox a lot of momentum, because that is their first biggie, especially if say Spider-Man comes out and it does well, but a lot of the criticism is like, yeah, it's good, but it's kind of a lot like the first one, whereas Starfield's that's like, whoa, that's fucking next generation. On conversely, if it comes out and it's a wee bit fucked, and Xbox fans just get battered in every comment section with "lol Starfield" and like arms flailing around, like, then I think they're doomed to 1,000 more years of being kind of being down on their luck. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I agree. This can't be another Halo.
Yeah, exactly.
If that happens twice in a row. I do think the general perception of Xbox will be better by the end of the year, because the overriding lol meme has been Xbox has no games. And not even Hi-Fi Rush seems to have changed that, even though that's a certified good game. I think by the end of the year, if you can point at Starfield, if you can point at Forza, if you can point at a few other things and say, look, it will. Phil Spencer says there are some other GoldenEye style surprises coming, which presumably means like really badly optimized retro games. As long as I think by the end of the year, the Xbox defenders will be able to say, well, we don't have no games, we've got boop, 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 boop. And that could help perception.
And here's what's coming in 24. We've got Avowed.
Yeah,
we've
so
shit that's been announced, and even stuff like Hellblade, because Hellblade's going to come out. No cunt will play it probably, but it will get amazing reviews, and it will be like this kind of here's their arty game, because I've not really had one of those in a while. Like, the dominoes are about to fall down, and then the fucking Microsoft Activision deal falls apart, and then Xbox gets sold off, and
that to me is more crucial than what's coming out this year. Is the Activision deal coming together, and what's going to be announced during the E3 period, because we know about Avowed and we know that Fable's coming in 2037.
Yeah.
We know these games are on the way. It's what we don't know that's going to swing things, I think, and Activision deal being done.
Now, Stacey, as a fellow Geordie, just like Jim Ryan, how do you think Xbox's end of the year is going to be?
I've got to be honest, I agree with what Chris said before about Starfield is not the Xbox game that I'm looking forward to. I will play it. I will prefer, I assume, if they're as good as I expect them to be, Redfall, Hellblade, and Forza. None of those games matter. I think if Starfield does well, Xbox has a good year. It doesn't matter if Forza is terrible. It doesn't matter if they only have one game, because as we've just said, Hi-Fi Rush reviewed really well, people loved it.
Yeah.
Still no one cares. They need a game on the level of God of War, or The Last of Us, or Ghost of Tsushima. They need some... Starfield needs to really be Elden Ring, Starfield. We need to all agree that that's the order of games for this generation, because Sony hasn't been fully firing because of delays with the pandemic. People, much like Spider-Man, people said God of War was just kind of the first one, but bigger. Sony has made its business exclusives, and it has not really delivered on that.
Interesting.
This gen. And if Xbox can show them up with Starfield, then that's a big win. And it can't show them up with... Doesn't matter how good Redfield is, that won't be a big exclusive that sells an Xbox.
Like the game on the bus. That's the game that's like gets like adverts during the Champions League and shit like that. All they need to do is be like the new game from the guys that like Skyrim, and that should be enough. But I think that's an interesting point about you thinking Sony's not delivering, because I think you would specifically with God of War, that seemed like a real turning point in terms of PlayStation 5's really getting out there in terms of like penetration to the market, and you saw a lot of God of War kind of in the lead up to Christmas. But I do wonder, because Sony hasn't had Ratchet as PS5 exclusive and my dearly beloved Returnal as PS5 exclusive, but they've not had one of their big like platinum tier studios put out just a PS5 game. So I'm interested to see like Spider-Man 2. You'd think that has to be that has to have like not just Manhattan, but it also has to have like the boroughs around New York. It has to have all these things that are like, fuck me, you could never do this on PS4. And then eventually you get whatever Naughty Dog are doing, but that'll be way down the line. You get whatever Blue Point are doing. But it's going to be an interesting end of the year for Microsoft.